Completely unexpected consequences of the US war against Iran. The United Arab Emirates has announced its intention to withdraw from OPEC and OPEC+, which are groups of oil-exporting countries. Such a move is a heavy blow to the organizations and their de facto leader, Saudi Arabia, at a time when the war in Iran has shaken the global economy. Obviously, such a withdrawal completely changes relations in the Middle East, putting the Emirates and Saudi Arabia in opposition to each other. But for the rest of the world, strangely enough, this is good news. I'll explain why. At the same time, you can also see signs of a certain understanding between Dubai and Washington here. And now Donald Trump announces that the Iranian authorities have informed the US about the onset of a state collapse. And so, Tehran is supposedly asking Washington to unblock the Hormuz Strait, through which the Iranian regime supplies most of its oil products, earning most of its foreign currency revenue from it. And these two pieces of news are interconnected. Let's figure it all out together now. My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like this episode, and leave any comment under this video. Also, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechiy News. The link is in this video's description. So, the United Arab Emirates, one of the largest oil-producing countries in the world, is leaving the organization of the petroleum exporting countries, that is OPEC, and the broader OPEC+ cartel, which includes more than 20 countries. The unexpected decision to leave OPEC, which the Emirates had been a part of for more than 60 years, was announced by the Minister of Energy, Suhail al-Mazrouei. Here is his quote. The United Arab Emirates considered that now is the right time to consider this political decision. The UAE is taking this step at the right moment, without having a significant impact on the market due to the restrictions in the strait. The Emirates did not consult either with Saudi Arabia, the leader of OPEC, or with other members of the cartel. Overall, the Emirates have long been dissatisfied with the fact that membership in OPEC and OPEC+ forces them to limit oil production. The production plans announced back in the late 2010s included increasing capacity to 5 million barrels per day. But at the beginning of this year, the Emirates were producing only 3.5 million barrels per day. And in 2024, they even had to reduce production to 2.9 million following the quotas required by OPEC and OPEC+. So basically, the cartels are just holding back their development. The withdrawal of the United Arab Emirates will of course weaken both OPEC and OPEC+. And the strength of these cartels has always depended only on the willingness of member states to restrain production volumes, and the Emirates were one of those. The loss of a participant with a production capacity of almost 5 million barrels per day and a desire to increase output deprives this group of a real tool for controlling production. And there are two main points in this news: geopolitical and economic. And from the perspective of long-term oil prices, strangely enough, this is good news. From a geopolitical point of view, the withdrawal of the Emirates is currently undermining Arab unity. The Emirates are thus challenging Saudi Arabia, since it was the Saudis who were the unofficial leader of OPEC+, including in the allocation of production quotas. So, in other words, Riyadh was unofficially deciding how much oil Dubai could produce. But from an economic point of view, the decision of the United Arab Emirates ushers in a new phase of oil market reshuffling with the prospect of a global drop in oil prices. Here I need to explain so it's clear why this exit seems catastrophic, but for the world it's actually good news. Before the war in Iran, the United Arab Emirates was in fourth place in oil production among OPEC+ countries. First place goes to Saudi Arabia, second place goes to Russia. And third place was shared by Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, and Iran. That's it, and it turned out that the Emirates had a little less, so I put them in fourth place. And it turned out that Iraq and the United Arab Emirates were among the countries most affected by the hostilities in the Middle East and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. So the Emirates and Iraq suffered the most. The production of Iraq and the Emirates fell by half, but Saudi Arabia suffered less. Their production volumes decreased by only 23%. So, back in 2024, the United Arab Emirates announced their plans to increase production to 5 million barrels per day by 2027. That is, 1.5 times more than what the OPEC Plus cartel allowed them to produce. And as I understand it, the Emirates decided to take advantage of the war, as well as previous agreements with the US, to get rid of the restrictive OPEC Plus quotas. And in the future, to reach a new level of production by capturing a significantly larger share of the market. They understand that they could move up from 4th place to at least 3rd. But considering that Russians are also reducing production there because of sanctions, maybe they can even compete a little for 2nd place. Obviously, in the short term, this won't affect oil prices in any way. Don't expect prices to drop suddenly after May 1st because of this decision. First, it's necessary to at least restore the pre-war production volumes in the Emirates and Iraq. But in the long term, everyone should benefit from this. Well, everyone except Saudi Arabia and Russia. That is, the main competitors of the United Arab Emirates within the cartel. And don't forget that not so long ago, Emirati officials were negotiating with the Americans about opening up, giving them access to the dollar to increase trade turnover. Well, it looks like they did reach some kind of agreement. Besides, the United States of America is currently holding back Iran's oil potential as much as possible with its blockade. Obviously, this situation gives the Emirates a chance to break into the market with renewed strength and new volumes. By the way, Donald Trump stated today that the Iranian authorities informed the US about the onset of a state collapse in their country. That is why Tehran is asking Washington to unblock the Strait of Hormuz, through which the Iranian regime supplies most of its oil products and receives the main part of its foreign currency earnings. And today, Trump made a statement, and I quote, "Iran just informed us that it is in a state of collapse. They want us to open the Strait of Hormuz as soon as possible while they try to deal with the leadership situation, and I believe they will succeed." Previously, it was reported that Trump was unhappy with Tehran's proposal. Iran's plan to end the war and open the Strait of Hormuz, since this option does not affect Iran's nuclear program. The resumption of shipping along the strategic maritime route without resolving the issue of Iran's uranium enrichment could deprive the US of a key bargaining chip in negotiations. At the same time, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told mediators that there is no consensus within Iran's leadership on how to respond. Требования США по ядерной программе. Tehran's proposal involves dividing the negotiations with the Americans into 3 stages, the first of which should focus on reaching an agreement to end the war and provide security guarantees to Iran and Lebanon. The other 2 stages would address the Strait of Hormuz and Iran's nuclear program, only after that. The Islamic Republic refused to discuss the last point until an agreement is reached. So, they're saying, let's just go back to point A, meaning the pre-war situation, and then spend months discussing the nuclear agreement further. Negotiations between the US and Iran stalled due to Tehran's refusal to make concessions, and last weekend Trump cancelled the visit of his special envoy Stephen Witkoff and his son-in-law Jared Kushner to Pakistan, which is acting as a mediator between the parties. Araghchi visited the Pakistani capital Islamabad twice over the weekend, where he was originally supposed to meet with US representatives. In addition, Abbas Araghchi visited Oman and on Monday arrived in St. Petersburg, where he met with the Russian balding dictator Vladimir Putin and received words of support from him. Meanwhile, the Emirates are playing their own game, and it's a long-term one. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, and don't forget to give a like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video or by using the QR code on your screen. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.